6 p.m. Time to convene the Roy City Council. At this time, I want to welcome you all out here, and I'm going to turn the conducting of the meeting over to Councilmember Tafoya, who is Mayor Pro Tem. As you can see, I have one bad eye and have trouble seeing out of the other also. So, Dave, if you would conduct the meeting, I would appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Before we begin, just want to introduce our new youth council member, Katie Smith. Katie, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the crowd?
Hi, I'm Katie Smith, and I'm a senior at Roy High School.
Great. We'd like to welcome Katie on to the council as representing the youth. Welcome, Katie. First item on the agenda, usually we have a moment of silence instead of a prayer, but today I'm just going to kind of make a statement instead of a moment of silence. This time of year is a time for all of us to reflect on what's important to us, be that your faith, your family, your friends, whatever that may be. Make sure we take the time to let them know how much they mean to us, your person, your family, whoever that is, whoever that person is that fills your heart with joy. Just let them know they're important to us and to everybody that you consider that can do that for you. So make sure we take the time to do that to our loved ones, okay? And with that, let's go ahead and stand up and say the pledge. Next on the agenda is public comment. This is time for any citizen or anybody who would like to come and approach the council with any items that they wish to discuss. Is there anybody that wishes to do so at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number E, the consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of items that we've already talked about or we need to do just for approval or denial. Is there a motion on the consent agenda, council?
Motion to approve City Council minutes for December 5th, 2017.
Second.
So motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item F is the next item up. It's the award of the 2017 Roy City Lighting Contest winners. We'd like to thank all those who participated in the contest this year. There are some great houses out there. I'm going to list off the honorable mentions, and after that we will start with the winners. Honorable mentions this year were Jason Skeen, Stephanie Ware, Greg Weibert, Noretta Huddleston, Henry Staley, Sheila Ossery, Jacob Paul, Tyler and Wendell Rich, Ryan Green, and Natasha Lewis. So we'd like to thank those who participated, and they were honorable mentions this year. So we will now start with the placing, starting with fourth place. You guys come on up, we got a little something for you. So the fourth place for this year is Eddie and Donica Martinez, and Jacob also. So come on up.
Oh, come on up. You want to shake? Yeah, shake her hand. I'd like to congratulate you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much for the participation, okay? Thank you. Thanks for the participation.
Congratulations. Well done. Thank you. Congratulations.
Third place was
Congratulations.
Steve Gorlowski. He wasn't able to make it tonight. Third place. Okay. Second place winner is John Vine. John, come on up.
Thanks for making a better community, okay? Thank you.
Nice job. Great job. Thanks.
Congratulations.
Okay, first place winner for this year, Desiree and Brandon Centine.
Not that intimidating.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, beautiful house.
Thank you for making our city a little bit brighter and a lot better, okay?
Well done.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Again, thanks for everybody that participated, and we will go ahead and put these names and addresses on the website for everybody to go and check out for the rest of the holiday season. Okay?
Can I make a comment? There were some great homes out there that were decorated, and I will tell you that obviously the top four, you can't help but notice they were really, really impressive. So I say well done. There was some great stuff. I was really impressed.
Good comments. Item number 2 is consideration of resolution 1747 declaring certain property at surplus and authorizing its sale.
Kathy?
As we were kind of straightening out the basement downstairs, we found some old stuff we need to put on there. One of them is a burster. This was a piece of equipment that in the old days when we would have the tractor feed, it would pull the statements apart for our utility bill, so it's quite old. So we'd like to surplus that, see if we could sell it on the surplus site, and if not, we'll probably just dispose of it because it's quite large and really serves no purpose out there, so.
Any other questions?
That's the only thing that you're going to
As
sell?
far as I think that's the
I
only thing
think
on
there
there.
was one more that Ross had. What was it?
I didn't see the list.
I can't pull it up on my phone. Yeah.
There's,
It's the tire machine from the Public Works
Tire
Department.
machine.
That's
Okay.
what it is.
Yeah, the tire machine,
Okay.
yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kathy. Is there a motion on this resolution?
Motion to approve resolution number 1747 declaring certain property as surplus and authorizing its sale.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Beecraft,
Aye.
Councilmember Tafoya,
Aye.
Councilmember Dandoy,
Aye.
Councilmember Hilton,
Aye.
Councilmember Yeoman.
aye.
Motion carries.
Item number 3, consideration approval of an alcoholic beverage license for Rite Aid located at 5673 South, 1900 West. As you saw in your packet, council, it has been checked off by everybody that needs to have it done. So seeing no other, if there's any other questions, let's go ahead and have a motion on that.
Motion to
Like-
approve?
I'll second that motion.
The motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, consideration of resolution 1750 expressing the city's intent to adjust its common boundaries with Hooper City, providing for the publication of the notice of public hearing and the holding of a public hearing.
Mayor and council members, this resolution, just like this, was before you 2 weeks ago. And what we've done here, and the reason why it's in front of you again, it does have a new number on it, but we adjusted the boundary line just a little bit from what it was. So if you look down on that, I think it's the southwest corner there. Yeah, that's, the boundary line is moved from the end of the street into the middle of the street, and that's the appropriate place for it. And both cities are responsible for the curb and gutters that are on their appropriate streets. So that's why we have that before you. Hooper is, they're presenting theirs again Thursday night, so we should have all that. We need to also mention that we're setting the 20th of March as the date to come,
Okay.
that protest date.
To have a public hearing?
Okay,
Public
so
hearing, yeah,
20th,
public hearing on the
do
20th.
that.
20th of
March.
January.
No,
March.
20th of March?
Yeah, 60 days, that's correct.
6 p.m.
And both areas will come to, at that meeting, right? Both
I'm sorry.
sides? Both sides,
No,
both
that-
areas?
No, that'll be our side. Their side can have their.
Well, I mean, going this area and then also going, am I
Just for
like
this.
lost?
It'll be just for this.
Just for this one? Okay. Maybe the other one is coming later.
I guess that's a question.
But
I
I'm
know we
confused.
notify Roy citizens, even though the Hooper citizens are involved. Do we notify them?
Right.
Correct. Anybody within the
Hooper will
radius.
set their date on the boundary adjustment, and then we'll have our date. And on that date, if we want, we can actually approve it that very night.
Yep.
So what we'll do, we'll have that time period to look in and see what kind of protests are there, and see if it fits into the numbers.
Any other questions, council? Is there a motion on the resolution?
I motion that we approve resolution number 17-50 expressing the city's intent to adjust the common boundary with Hooper City, providing for the publication of a notice of public hearing and the holding of the public hearing.
And we set that date for March 20th at 6 p.m.
Correct.
Okay, it's been motioned and second. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Tafoya,
Aye.
Councilmember Yeoman,
Aye.
Councilmember Hilton,
Aye.
Councilmember Beecraft,
Aye.
Councilmember Dandoy.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 5, a public hearing to consider amendment to the general plan to include the focus area plan of Roy. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
I'd like to make that motion. We go into public hearing.
Second.
It's been motioned and second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are now in public hearing. Jason. Or Steve, my fault.
Turn time to Steve.
Go, Jason. I go through the proper channels, right?
Correct.
Baby will come up. Okay. Rather small. I just have the same presentation that was presented to both the Planning Commission and City Council last November. So not quite sure how deep and in depth you want to go. I can get rather deep or just kind of answer questions that you may have. Again, this was just a project that staff applied for back in this, well, 2 years ago this month is when staff initiated it in conjunction with Weber County. Weber County wanted to look at it for an economic standpoint of how can we better, benefit Roy. We did have a few outreach meetings to the public. The first one being, was it October? No, April. No, October, sorry. Of 2016. There at the library, we did have about a dozen or so that came to the meeting. They looked at several maps of Roy City. The reason why the mapping process or the thing was to, within the next, 2050, 2040, we will grow about 7,000 to 9,000 more people. And how and where should Roy grow is really what the question was. Knowing that majority would like to have single-family homes, but we don't have a lot of raw ground to develop those. So that was the question, is where should we develop this type of for these people to live. So at the first meeting, that again, they kind of looked at it, they had little stickers of mixed use or just commercial or single family homes. So there's a variety of different stickers that they could put on the maps. And in your packet, well, at least, on the slide, it shows the 3 maps that were discussed. And they did have no, I didn't really coax anybody. The Planning Commission was there as well, but they looked at it and mainly looked at downtown Roy, which at first I didn't know there was a downtown Roy. Until I was talking with people, it's more 56 and 19. It does kind of go linear up to about 53 and down to 58 to 6,000. But they also looked at the front runner station. And, without really coaxing each of the 3 groups, you can see within the maps, they both had relatively similar things to develop in certain areas. We had a second workshop where it was more of streets. How do we want the streets to develop in essence? Looking at a 100-foot right-of-way, which is 1900 West. How should it develop? What should it look like? Should it just be a vehicle only? Should there be bike lanes? Should there be parking? How should all look? So within that, this is kind of an idea that one group had put together, having sidewalks where there was benches, some balconies above, parking with streets, with trees in that parking, very similar to, you'll see a lot of downtown Provo, Salt Lake, or Ogden. A bike lane, 2 lanes of traffic, a median, again, has landscaping, and then same thing on the other side. So with that, we kind of had Ferganesi, who was the third party that kind of wrote most of it, but again, in conjunction with Planning Commission and you guys through a few meetings. looked at both those things. We also had an online survey. We had over 200 respondents to it. Nothing compared to the survey that Royce City themselves, the council had put to where you went door to door. Obviously, that one was a little more different aspect, and we're here at your door to answer these questions, where this one was just a volunteer, please come to these meetings and or respond to the survey. So many of the same questions that were asked at the pop-up meetings or the public meetings were asked on this survey as well. So having 200 people respond to an online survey was actually a great thing. The sad part is when it comes down to planning and you have a meeting to come, if I can get 2% of people to come to those meetings, I feel great. It's kind of sad, but that's really how it is. It's just unfortunately people have a lot of other things to do or don't know about it or what have you, but you can only advertise so much and whatnot. We also did a little pop-up meeting here at Harmon's. 3 of us kind of got together just at one of the things, and as people entered and exit, we just asked them questions as well. One dealing with 1900 West road enhancements, what should be done, how safe do you feel? A lot of people like the concept of having some sort of landscaping, whether it be a median where I can cross half the road, be safe in some sort of landscape median, and then cross the other half of the road where I'm not trying to dart all 5 lanes in one shot. The other one was also housing growth. Again, we concentrated in, and what this plan has come to is the front runner station and then downtown. This plan doesn't go out to any other real parts of the city, just focus on those. So when we asked that question of having 7,000 to 9,000 more people coming to Roy, not a lot of land, where should they go, and then also what types of housing. There was 5 different types. Single family homes is the one kind of on the left at the bottom picture, all the way up to 4-story townhomes or condos. So there was a good aspect of those that wanted, knowing that ground, there isn't much of it in Roy. We got to provide different avenues of housing for multiples of people. So they looked at that and, talked about townhomes or condos or whatnot. I'm not sure if this is kind of the process of how we got there. So I'm not sure if you have any more questions or would like me to kind of just start into the strategies and implementations or.
Go ahead to strategies and implementations.
Okay. The first one is, again, just zoning and development recommendations. Can't get rid of this cough. And I won't necessarily dive into each one because there's, 12 different sections, and some have 2 or 3. The first one really is, and most of these, again, it's not a right foot here, left foot here, right foot here. We can hop and skip and jump as you want, but the first recommendation from Ferguson and Planning and UTA and Wasatch Front Regional Council is we need to update our general plan. It's 15 years old. It's been modified here and there, but really it's, change the zoning for this, change the zoning for that, but it's not looking at transportation. It's not looking at parks and rec and anything else. So the first one is we just got to update it, plain and simple. Staff has already applied to Wasatch Front to get some additional money. I know the council set aside $65,000 to do that. In talking to third parties, it's just not going to be enough. So I've applied for $50,000 more. With that, we should be able to get a good plan, and it won't cost us probably that much. But again, I'd rather have more and not spend it than not enough and run into some trouble. So again, staff's already kind of taken a step towards this. I know the council wants the general plan done. That's why it was in the budget and approved. So we'll get that going. And again, this is just looking strictly at the front runner station and downtown, not the rest of the city. To look and create and adopt a mixed use zoning, not just the zoning, but designations of where that should be and how it should be. In this plan, as it talks about it, it does differentiate between the front runner station, how it should develop, and downtown, how it should develop. Again, they're two different animals, two different beasts, even though in here it says look at it for mixed use. One's not gonna be exactly like the other. So when we start writing the zoning for that, each one's gonna be something different. Again, one's gonna be more transportation oriented, one's gonna be more commercial and retail oriented. Two, again, is just looking strictly at the front runner station, looking at the criteria for the, and again, with UTA being 95% landowner of the front runner station itself, granted, when you look beyond that, if you go 400 feet one way or 400 feet the other way and north and south, they're no longer the majority of the landowner. There's several vacant parcels, so you can look at that and say, okay, how can we make our front runner station viable? It's not gonna be a Farmington, it's not gonna be downtown Ogden, it's gonna be a Roy. How can we make Roy's station stand out? Be, you know, it can't be everything for everybody. It may have a mom and pop coffee shop, it may have a donut shop somewhere, and maybe even some, I envision, you know, taco carts or hot dog carts there. It's not gonna be grandiose like Farmington where there's just thousands and thousands of square feet of commercial. It's just not gonna happen, unfortunately. But again, how can we make it still viable to bring in these, you know, 9,000 people to Roy? Not all of them want single family homes. Even those who are in single family homes as they get older may not want to take care of their yard, so you got to provide avenues for that. So it's, again, looking strictly at front runner station and how it should develop and how we should do it. Here it does talk about, again, mixed use. This is just a picture. It doesn't have to be, you know, 5 stories tall or anything, but when they look at it, we got to be in conjunction with UTA again because they are a landowner there, where the parking lot is and whatnot. So those are things that we have to look at. UTA does have a kind of a design standard they've already set. They're just in the process of modifying it, so we don't have a copy of it yet. But as they get that passed and done, we can take a look at it and say, okay, how can we fit Roy's themes and things that we want into their scheme, and then kind of draft the ordinance through that. Again, we'll take more of the lead of development, but again, they're going to be a large player with that. 3 looks at downtown. How do we make it more of pedestrian and transit friendly? Again, because their buses do go up and down 1900 and on Riverdale Road. How do we make this more of a downtown? And when you think of downtown, you think of walking abilities there. So when you look at this picture of Harmons, and it's nothing against Harmons, it's just a great picture to look at, you don't really see something inviting to walk through. You don't see anything. You just want to drive, park, go, and come out. But through this plan, it kind of talks about ways that we can implement within that zoning ordinance of a mixed use to make it more walkable. Will that happen tomorrow, even if we adopt this and make a mixed use zone? No. It will take several years, maybe even several decades to get done. But again, if we start this, and you know, as the first project comes and the second project, more people will start looking at it and saying, hey, I like that, let's do this, and have that concept. So again, it talks about looking at the parking standards. Do you think this ever gets filled up? No. We've got more parking in the Harmons parking lot than it really needs. So look to reduce, and then also put it in other places, to the side of the building or in the back. The great thing about Harmons is we could still use the Harmons building as it is. Maybe as a development comes, put it along the frontage of the road, and then the parking can be in between. Now we've kind of hidden it from the road. People might be able to walk up and down those, but also very similar to Farmington, where you get a row of commercial that's parking lot, and then there's a section where it's just walking. So there's, you know, abilities to kind of modify what we've existing conditions without having to say, hey, tear everything down.
Steve, if
Yeah.
I can
No.
too, that's what Riverdale did. Did you see Riverdale's new mod pizza place and all that? They put the buildings, even it's the back, but they're labeled on the back so everybody knows, and they enter, and then it's just a whole big old shopping center on the inside.
Not saying that we'll do what Riverdale did, but or something similar to that. Again, this is just talking about where to put parking, having only so much of it in the front or on the side and the rest of it kind of in the back, so you still have a majority of the building, like a downtown would. 3.2 is again front runner station, just friendly parking standards. The rest of them are really kind of things that we could look at of how to make it a walkable, sustainable downtown. Again, when you walk down 25th Street in Ogden, why is people drawn there? Wide sidewalks, storefronts that I can walk up and down and look in. Whether it be a restaurant or a retail shop or a salon or what have you, I can see. So as people walk down, if you can see through it, you feel safe. Where if you're on the back side of Ogden's station, what do they call that? Downtown junction, where the parking lot is, it's not as amenable to people walking as in the middle of it, or 25th Street. Now, we don't necessarily want to say, hey, UDOT, reduce the size of 1900 West, reduce the size of 5600 South so we can get a wide sidewalk. Everybody knows that you have setbacks. The building has to be set back a certain distance from property line. In this case, if it's downtown, let's bring the buildings a little closer, maybe say 10 feet. They can be 2 or 3 stories high. But instead of having a landscape strip in between the front property line and the building, why not make it an area where it's hardscaped? Now it becomes a wider sidewalk, even though it's private property, but they can put out decorations, they can put out displays, maybe like this picture shows, a little table or two that they can serve drinks on. Again, the more people you can get to walk up and down and sit and talk and converse, it makes it a little more pleasing. So again, these are just ways in which to look at it, to provide or incentivize people to come. Again, first floor should be a lot more glass to it than brick and stucco or stone. Trees, again, benefit. The streets that you recognize more people walking on is because there are street trees, there are public art, there are benches. So the more things you can get. 3.7 again is just talking about that 10-foot pedestrian zone that I just mentioned. Here's one that when we looked at it, it says, okay, we do know we have commercial that abuts against residential. No way we can get around that. If the plan's adopted and we say, okay, the buildings are going to be 2 or 3 stories tall, how do we soften the blow to the residents but still maintain that ability to have those heights of buildings? Here it just kind of mentions after the first or second level, make the second or third level step back again. So it's not just one straight 40-foot wall right next to 8 feet from the house or whatever that setback may be. Again, just kind of step that so again it doesn't feel like a huge wall just sitting right next to them. We can get landscaping to help encumber that issue, but again, step that building back. Allow for outdoor amenities. Again, if we have larger sidewalks, those are ability to do. Whoops, went the wrong way. Safety hazards, especially 1900 West, 5600 South. We can look at how can we make it safer. Again, landscape median. The picture has green, talks about bulb outs, just right at the intersection. Have some landscaping. So again, when I'm walking at those intersections, I'm not fighting 5-6 lanes of traffic. I've got a little place to kind of hide, then I cross a few, and then I'm back. It also provides an area for parking. I've defined this is not a through lane, but we can now put parking or what have you. So again, it's just suggesting we got to get with UDOT, but we can make those suggestions. They can say yes or no, but again, at least we've had that talk with them. 6.2 again just looks at preserving the right-of-way. This is where the complete streets policy, which is next to be talked about, comes into play. Really, it's not every street that we want to say, can we put a bike lane? Can we put wider sidewalks for pedestrians? Can we make bulb outs? Can we make medians? It's really looking at our major roads. If we're going from east to west, 19, 27, 31, 35, and 43. If we have to modify the, repave the road or do some repairs, let staff take a moment and look at it. Say, okay, with our right-of-way width, we put a bike lane. All it costs us is paint. Sometimes this is the best way and the cheapest way. If it gets used a lot, then maybe we can invest a little bit more. I hate to keep saying Ogden, but again, from the junction heading north to the river, they're investing $1 million per block to put a dedicated bike lane that's protected by landscaping. Not saying we'll go that far, but you never know. At least look at it. And then going from south to north, 6,056, 48, and then 4,000. Anytime we do work on that, staff needs to stop, take a look at it. Can we provide any and all? If we can't, then we just move on. If we can, then we look at ways to get those in the budget and to provide those services. So it won't be every road, because again, residential streets really are that already, just not striped. Kids ride their bike, people skateboard, people drive. Those are already done, but the speed is much less that it doesn't compete with each other. Again, it's just an idea of a median where you can walk half the road, have safe, and then walk again. Look at landscape medians, curb extensions, develop access management plans for reducing curb cuts, very similar to what UDOT does. We've already got that in our zoning ordinance that you have to be so far away from property line. You can only have so much of a curb cut for residential. Again, just to limit the number of access points as you drive up and down. And then the transportation connection part of it is, again, looking at Denver Rio Grande. How can we better take advantage of this asset that we already have in the city that's already, going from north to south, and once West Haven finishes their portion of it, you can go from Ogden Canyon to Provo Canyon on some sort of trail. I wouldn't advise you doing that. That's 100 and some odd miles and very long, but again, you do have that ability. So again, how do we connect the front runner station to the trail? How do we interconnect the citizens in between 4,048 or 48 and 56? Because really there's not a lot of connections except for those streets. So we got to look at opportunities to make those connections where we can. Again, we got to get with conjunction with UTA, Union Pacific, especially going from the east side to the west. Makes it a little more difficult, a lot more expensive just because of the tracks, but let's look at those opportunities. If they present themselves, let's take advantage of them. Then one other thing that they were talking about is wayfinding signage. If I'm a traveler and I stop off in Roy train station, how do I get to downtown? How do I get to the airport? How do I get to Hillfield? Just put some sort of signage telling them which way to go. But we need to be cohesive, so everything within Roy needs to look very similar. These are just samples of what UTA kind of has. Don't have to adopt what UTA has. We can look at something different, but look at everybody else that does have wayfinding, what works, what doesn't work. But I get off on 5600 South and I'm on 19. Where's the aquatic center? Where's the golf course? Getting some sort of wayfinding signs so we can get people to our attractions that we do have. Interconnect, the regional trail and bike network. Those are always ongoing. Anytime we have the ability to do it, we look at opportunities. And I know Ross and I and Mark are always looking to do that. And then just greenways. Great, if we can connect all our parks somehow through a bike system, through a trail system of some sort, that I can go from West Park to Municipal Park and try to get over to Emma Russell. How much better would that be that we do have some connections? Will it always happen? No, but let's look for opportunities to do that. And so, brings me to this point. Any questions?
Council, have any questions?
No. Interested in what the public might have to say, since we're in a public open meeting.
Thanks, Steve. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on this topic? If so, go ahead and step on up to the mic. When you come up, make sure to say your name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Eddie Martinez, and my address is 4744 South, 2325 West, Roy, Utah. As a UTA operator, I'm not speaking in UTA's behalf. Just as a UTA operator, I'm just the problem with the plan here I have is our buses are already struggling on getting into traffic as it is. A front of Harmon's, any development in that area, because the new beautification project that's been completed on that corner, how is that going to affect the bus getting down Riverdale? Because we can't remove that new feature, and we can't really cut any further in that area. And how is these dividers going to affect EMS response, police response? Because they're already struggling getting down the street as it is through traffic. If I-15 is backed up, we're the road that everybody takes. No doubt, we're the alternative. We're pretty much the only alternative is 1900 West. And any shrinkage of that road, and I understand that because I've been an Ogden citizen too, and I understand the beautification projects of Ogden, but the middle dividers have caused nothing but problems for pedestrians, buses. Pedestrians say, well, when they ride my bus, they say the planters are cute, but people don't pay attention to the pedestrian because all they see is a divider. They don't see the individual. And so Ogden implemented putting flashing lights at crosswalks. A lot of people do not pay attention still. And the biggest struggle that I see out in the system is that same thing with downtown Salt Lake. When they went and put the planters downtown, they had to shrink the width of the road. And now diesels and semis and buses and large vehicles, fire trucks, ambulances have a hard time squeezing between the parked vehicles and main traffic. So if somebody is not parked properly, then that affects the flow of traffic. So in my opinion is the middle dividers would not benefit anyone. And it's great to have them have a space in between, but as much traffic that flows through Roy, it just wouldn't be plausible. And I understand that, people need to get across the road. And I have noticed that some cities in Salt Lake, I don't know particularly what cities they are, but they have a unique design in their crosswalks where they have a white line, but they also kind of have like a blue arrow design to kind of get you to follow a certain pattern. Because if you're facing left turning traffic, you're less chances of getting hit. So some of the cities in Salt Lake, the smaller cities, have decided to implement that at crosswalks to kind of get people's more attention, But I just see the divider thing as just definitely something that I really don't feel it's something that Roy could. Me personally, as a taxpayer, I think it's just a waste of money in that aspect, because I'm sorry, but if an ambulance is heading on my way or a fire truck is coming to my house, I want to make sure that they are not having to deal with having to go in the opposite, lanes of traffic to get through. That's just all I have to say about the middle dividers. But I totally agree. Roy has been Roy the way it's been for the longest time. And I totally agree that something may need to be done in the Harmon area. Even if it meant having shops at the bottom and, double apartments at the top. So in this way, we're utilizing multiple ranges. So then we're getting tax revenue from businesses like Starbucks and stuff. We're getting tax revenue from housing, from the residents, and that funding can be used for other projects too. And building up is the really only option I see in Roy, because they're running out of land. But I understand that we're kind of moving behind on the times. But after seeing this, I'm glad I came to the meeting today. And I didn't really know much about this plan, but that's just pretty much what I gotta say. Is I think that Roy needs to move in a forward motion, but as far as 1900 West and 5600 South putting dividers in is not going to be safe and is not going to help our EMS response. And once again, I-15 gets jammed up. People use 1900 because this is the biggest road around. And so if we're parking any cars along that road, that increases the opportunity for cars to sideswipe UTA buses as they're passing. And it offers impeding of traffic, if you will, And so I also like the way Ogden kind of had the parking and the bike lane and then the traffic. But I noticed that in order to do that on 1900, you would have to push the sidewalks. You couldn't even do it on the east side because those buildings are already at the sidewalk. So if you have the McDonald's, you're going to cut clear back to McDonald's, and they don't have a turnaround lane anymore. You eliminated that for them. And then KFC, basically the front lawn is basically gone. So it has to be something that we need to work with what we got. And Roy can be beautiful. We just gotta work it. And and the signage, I totally agree that we definitely need signage to point to golfing and the aquatic center and all that. So, but that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you.
I live at 3500 West 54. I live at 3635 West 5400 South in an unincorporated pocket of Roy. I brought this binder for Councilman Dandoy.
What's your name, ma'am, first, before we get that?
Jackson. Lisa Jackson.
Okay, thank you.
I read Rosa Corey's book, Behind the Green Mask, quite a few years ago, and was woken up to things because she talked about what was happening in California. What was happening in California then is starting to happen here in Utah. There are a lot of things happening. The partners in Wasatch Choice 2050 are the Wasatch Front Regional Council, Envision Utah, Salt Lake County, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is HUD, the UTA, Metropolitan Research Center, Bureau of Economic and Business Research, Mountain Land Association of Governments, American Planning Association, Utah Chapter, Utah Department of Transportation, which is UDOT, Salt Lake City, and Davis County. These are the decision makers in this thing. I went to the first meeting that Steve talked about in October. There were about 7 of us that were actually people who live here. The other people were people who don't live here. I asked them who, the people that were presenting the meeting, I asked them where they were from. They were from Denver, Phoenix, and Seattle. They were millennials, and they do not live here. They are the people that helped make this plan that Steve presented to us. They will not live here. They do not care about our traffic problems. They do not care about Hale Air Force Base traffic going up 5600 South. They do not care about alleviating traffic. They do not want to make traffic things better. In fact, they want to make it worse. A really bad thing about this is that the interlocal, what is it called? Interlocal Cooperation Act, which is on the internet. You can look it up on the internet. It talks about, okay, the purpose of this chapter, which is the Interlocal Cooperation Act. It's chapter 13, 11-13-102. This is Utah code. The permit local government units to make the most efficient use of their powers by enabling them to cooperate with other localities. That means other cities, other counties, etc. On the basis of mutual advantage, and thereby to provide services and facilities in a manner and under forms of governmental organization that will accord the best geographic, economic, population, and other factors influencing the needs and development of local communities, and to provide the benefit of economy of scale, economic development and utilization of natural resources for the overall promotion of the general welfare of the state. The problem with this is this Interlocal Cooperation Act is unconstitutional. This is not representative government. We do not elect these people, okay? Okay. The voting members of the Wasatch Front Regional Council of Governments are UDOT, UTA, and other voting members that I read to you about at the beginning. I read all of their names. Those are the voting members. Non-voting members include this city council and other city councils. They don't get a vote. The House and the Senate do not get a vote. Okay,
Mayor,
so
if
nobody.
I could interrupt,
Nobody gets.
I think the
nobody
public
gets.
hearing's getting off.
Just
the
one sec,
point.
Lisa. You're fine. Usually we
it's
hold comments about 3 minutes, Lisa. You're a little bit over that, so you're great. You're doing okay. If you could just kind of wrap up, going to what you're going.
If you could tell us how it's tied to this amendment to the general plan that we're having a public hearing on too.
Okay. I am against this Focus Roy, Utah plan. These people are not from here. I agree with Mr. Saxton here, who says that we need to make this plan ourselves. Okay? People that are here in Utah need to make these plans. Okay? People that are here living in Roy need to make these plans. We do not need people who are from Phoenix and Seattle and Denver to make these plans for us. I do not care if they have college degrees in city planning. They should not be planning our city. We should be planning our city. Okay? And that is how I feel about this. If anybody wants to know more about this, they can go to lisajacksondesign.wordpress.com and read my blog. And I'm going to give this to Robert Dandoy. How do I give this to him?
We'll take that right now. We'll grab it.
Come take it. You see it right there, Lisa. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Jackson. Anybody else? Come on up.
Hi, Brian Santini. I live at 3154 West, 4750 South. My first time here. I'm really glad I came. And my wife and I, we moved here about 5 years ago. And just want to say we absolutely love Roy. We love the roads. We love the speed limits here. We just love it here. I was listening about the plan, and I just wanted to give my 2 cents. I'm not a big fan of road dividers at all. So for whatever that's worth, if we cannot do that, that would be wonderful. But I just want to say good job to all you. I really love Roy, and really happy to be here. And that's all. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
My name is Suzette Liu, 4098 West, 4650 South, Roy, Utah. I would like some clarification. I apologize for walking in late. Steve, are you proposing to shrink 1900 West to make it smaller?
I'll answer all questions after.
Okay, it appeared to me that it looked like the 1900 would be shrinking, so we could get less traffic going up and down 1900 West. I'm against that. I believe Roy City is growing. I believe that we have traffic problems, and I believe we need to relieve the traffic congestion, not increase the traffic congestion. I don't see a reason to install these huge dividers, beautiful garden plots in the middle of Roy 1900 West. That's not sensible. I question the common sense of this plan. This is very strange. We need to improve the traffic flow along 1900 West, and if that means expanding lanes, whatever, but not planting beautiful gardens in the middle of the street and creating more traffic congestion. I really question the common sense of this plan and this approach. I find it very strange. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Jason Spar, 4040 South, 1650 West in Roy. You know, I voted yes for this in the last planning commission meeting, so I don't want to take too much of your time for this, but I'm here as a citizen now to again voice my vote for yes on this plan as a citizen. I like a lot of the things that are in the plan. I know that a lot of this is going to be a living document that can be changed with the majority vote. And I've got confidence that our city is going to look into the traffic issues that we might encounter in some of those tighter areas so that we're not going to cause congestion. And as things come up, I'm sure individually we'll be able to hit those tight points that we need to get past to hurdle it. But I think overall this is a great plan to move forward with. I'm very excited about it. I've lived in Roy almost all my life, and I'm happy to get some new life flowing here. So that's about all I have to say about that. So thank you for viewing this, and that'll
Okay,
do it.
thank you. Go ahead.
Joe Paul, 3727 West, 5700 South. I too am on the planning commission and voted for this. When it was presented in planning commission, it was presented as a guideline. That's how we passed it and presented it up. And I believe that is what it really is. It's a guide for us to move forward. Obviously, no decisions are going to be made in a vacuum. We will have public input when it comes time to rezoning and doing stuff. People have the opportunity to give input. So I want people to know that just because this is adopted tonight as moving towards the general plan, that is nothing set in concrete, because there will be working things to go along with this. But one of the things that hasn't been brought up is mixed use, and I believe mixed use is a good opportunity for the city to look at ways to bring some businesses into town and also provide ways for, we're still growing. There's going to be more people coming to Roy, and where are we going to put them? I'm a firm believer in single level housing, and more property is better, because that's why I moved not too long ago, was to get more property. But in today's world, not everybody wants that. I work with a lot of people in downtown Salt Lake that want to live in a condo or a smaller community where they don't have a yard to take care of. They can jump on the train and go to work in Salt Lake. Or when we talked about it in the planning commission and in our meeting, you know, if UTA can work some things out with the transportation oriented areas to where we're focusing on refining bus routes and we're tying the trails into it. I ride my bike, and unfortunately there's not a lot of good areas in Roy where I feel safe to ride. So I'll jump on 3000 and head out south. But if we could tie I can't, from where I live down in the bottom of Roy on the south end, I can't really in a good manner get on a bike or jump on a bus and go to the train station, or go to the other where the park and ride where the buses pick up, express buses pick up in Riverdale. And so I think that adopting this as a guideline, and then we have open meetings and discussion of how this is going to work. I think some people are concerned that once this is adopted tonight, that it's set in concrete, and this is exactly how it's going to be. Jason said it perfect. It's a living, breathing document. And I just want people to know that they'll have a chance to give input as it goes forward. But, you know, we are a little bit behind in this. You go look at other areas and where mixed use is booming and growing. You know, we talk about single level housing. In the area that UTA owns around the train station, you're not going to put in single level housing. There's not enough area. Plus, UTA owns it. They're going to be the drivers of what they want there, and this is part of what they want there. And so, you know, I know that's not popular with some people, but I think we have to sometimes look outside of the box and say, is there a way to make it work for everybody involved? And that's just, I have faith in all of you as leaders of the city that you will take that into consideration and listen to the people. So thank you for your time.
Thanks. Any other public comment? All right, seeing none. Council, do you have any comments on this topic before we go further?
Can I have a motion to go out of public hearing?
After you got any comments before, do you have any now, then we can do that. Anybody?
Well, I have a comment here. This plan here, I appreciate all the comments, but we've been talking about these same issues for over 15 years, you know, and it's been ongoing. So this plan puts the wheels in motion to start doing something about those issues. I don't totally agree with 6.2, where it limits the widening of certain roads. You know, I think that if the need needs to be, we need to widen 4,000 a little bit, or maybe 6,000 to get traffic flowing through a little bit better. I'm not keen on the dividers either, but it's a living document, like Jason said. And I really think that it addresses some of the things we've been talking about for a long time, the mixed use and the street issues, traffic issues. And if nothing else, it's going to get the wheels rolling, and we're going to start seeing some improvements in Roy. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be set in stone. Okay, a lot of these things aren't going to happen. I mean, UDOT owns, you know, 1,900, and they're not going to agree to do some of those things either.
So just, yeah, I just want to say these are just ideas that were suggested to us from these. And this is something where we, as Roy, is going to take these ideas from this plan and put it into what we want our city to be. It doesn't mean that we are putting in the medians down the middle. Yeah, 1,900, there's no way we can. There's no room. We'd have to take out a lot of businesses and stuff. So that doesn't mean that that's ever going to happen, you know, for the buses to get around. This is basically, like we've said, a living, breathing document. Give us some ideas, some suggestions, some new things that are out there that other cities and developers are doing that we could maybe incorporate in Roy, and just make certain parts better or improve them. Look at ways to increase traffic flow and increase some of our multi-use areas and increase that. But this is not set in stone. All this does is give us a plan and some guidelines and some ideas to be able to create what we want as a city council with public input to make our city what we want it to be. That's exactly what this plan is just to give us some of those new ideas and new suggestions and stuff that are out there for us to possibly be able to use for our city.
We're not making a contract.
No, there's no contract. There's
Lisa,
no
we thank you
contract.
for your comments. You had at the time. It's not a debate right now,
Right.
Lisa.
The other thing
Okay.
I like about this too is that it sets forth the TOA standards for the train station. You know, it lets us know what's required of us to get things moving, and I think that's a great part of this too. We're going to know which direction we need to go to obtain some of those things and work with these entities a little bit better.
Mayor?
This is a guideline for the growth of Roy City. You know, for many, many years, this community just grew by the seat of its pants, and they put this here and they put this there, and it was hodgepodge growth in Roy City. This is a document that will lead to organized growth in Roy City and the expansion of the city. You know, this city is going to grow more, and we may not like all that growth, but it's going to come inevitably to Roy City. You know, I moved out here in I moved out here in 1970 and watched this town grow. Did I agree with all the growth in the city? Certainly not. But it brings jobs, it brings living, and it brings the community together. And that's what we're trying to do, is build a better and a complete Roy City that the citizens, they come in here and we receive input from the citizens. We have a planning commission that meets every other week. They certainly receive information from the public. So we advertise. We don't operate in secret about what we're doing in Roy City. It's published. The information is available. And if there's projects being debated that you don't like, I would suggest that you attend the planning commission meetings, that you attend the city council meetings, and voice your opinion. We're here to listen to the citizens also.
I'm gonna make a motion that we go out of public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motion second. All in favor to go out of public hearing?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is consideration of ordinance number
Dave,
17.
Can I answer some of those questions that did come up during the public hearing?
Sure, go ahead.
Again, as mentioned, this is just a guideline. It's going to be one chapter of a 15-chapter document, so it's not going to precede any of the other ones. Again, this just gives suggestions on how we can move forward. We will not, and I don't think UDOT would ever agree to this, shrink the road. It's 100-foot right-of-way. UDOT's going to maintain that. The suggestion was, instead of having a landscape strip in front of the buildings to the sidewalk, make that a wider sidewalk.
Right.
So we're actually making what appears the right-of-way to be bigger than it would actually be. Again, with UDOT owning the road, they would have to buy off on the fact of having any medians, landscaping in the middle, any bulb outs, anything that comes across it. It is in other downtowns. Ogden, Salt Lake, Provo, you name it, they're there. It does help with traffic. If I can't turn left because of the median, I don't have left traffic, or left people turning left in front of me. So again, it does help. You can have our police chief come and talk about that a little bit. Again, it is just a guideline. I think I answered all the questions.
Any questions for Steve?
No, Steve. Thanks for the information. If I could just make a couple of comments. I think the common thread that we heard today in public comment talked about the challenge we have with traffic. And there's nobody on this council more excited about trying to find solutions to traffic than me, because I'm telling you, it is a pain. I'm tired of people complaining about it. It's a big issue. And I think every one of us here would basically say we've heard an earful of it. I will indicate to you, Jason has scheduled a meeting Thursday. We're going to sit down with UDOT, and we're going to have a heart-to-heart conversation about the future of Roy City, because they own, in my opinion, the three main arteries in Roy. And all we can do is ask. They own. And we have got to come to a closure on this, because it ain't getting any better, and it's going to get a lot worse. The facts are, Hooper is going to be big. It's going to be as big by 2040. It's going to be as big as Roy. West Haven will actually have more population than Roy City. We're talking about, between Roy City, West Haven, and Hooper, well over 100,000 people. Where Roy City has 37,000, those three cities alone will be 100,000 growth in roughly 20 some odd years. And to get to the freeway, to get down to shopping, to get to Hill Air Force Base, they're going to come through Roy, and Roy is not ready for that. And UDOT has to understand that, and we are going to fix that. We have no choice but to fix the problem. It is an absolute nightmare. So everything that we're talking here, everything this council is doing, is really trying to focus on what are we going to look like when we grow up. And I tell you, in the next 10 or 15 years, we're going to sense it and we're going to feel it. And we're going to fix it. One way or another, we're going to fix it. And so we're going to take these issues on. If this proposal can be shaped and modified to enhance this, because some of the things you did mention are really rock solid. They are reality. Then I say we can do some good things with this. But let it be known to the public, we are not sitting back and just letting this happen. We are taking control, and we're going to fix the traffic problems. We're going to fix the economic development problems. And if this is a tool that will help us enhance that, then I'm here to say is we have no choice but to do that. We have got to take that issue on. So I know sometimes it's hard sometimes with the public to say, well, what are you doing? And maybe our problem is we're not transparent enough. Maybe we just should be more open about what's happening. But I'm here to say it, and I think everyone on this table and every leadership in the city is saying is, there are some big issues that are on our forecast. We're going after them. And the two big ones that we put in our 5-year plan, Mayor, you remember? Traffic, okay? That was a big one. Economical development. They are the two big of the 5 we got. We said we're going to tackle and we're going to take these on. We're going to handle these, and we're going to do it smartly. And I think let's not lose sight of what the mayor's talking about. Please get involved. As we start shaping and putting these ideas out there, we need the public input. They need to help us to make sure we frame this. And if islands in the middle of the street are not the answer, then let's don't do it. But we got to solve the problem, and we need input to help us do that. But we're going to solve them with or without input. It's going to happen. So,
and as you know, if it isn't in there somewhere, UDOT's never going to look at it.
Exactly.
UDOT may never say no. They may say we never want them.
Right.
But at least we brought it to the table to give options and say, hey, we would like some sort of traffic calming, traffic safety, whether it be medians, bulb outs, or what have you.
And Steve, your point is well taken. We already heard from UDOT. Roy City would be in a better place right now if we had an updated, approved transportation plan. If the city had a transportation plan that says this is the vision, this is what we need, they listen to us. And then we need to basically move, with their assistance, move out with it. But we've got to get this laid in. We've got to have that plan established. So we got some challenges. We can do it, but we need public input to help us through the process. Okay.
Great. I got comments on the plan on myself. I mean, there's some good things. There's some things in there that I just totally disagree with.
Yep.
Okay. Right now, there's a reason there's a word called build out. That tells you that we are build out. Everybody says, oh, we're going to get 7,000 to 9,000 more people. No, we don't have to take 7,000 to 9,000 more people. If we don't plan it, we're build out. They don't have to come. Everybody complains about the traffic, all right? By putting any kind of mixed-use multifamily on 1900, to me, that's just not common sense. You are adding thousands of homes, or thousands of residents, thousands of cars, and just exacerbating that major problem. I'm just a common sense man, and that seems common sense to me. So, you know, I don't agree with everything that's on this plan, but as I said, it's a growing working document. We don't have to do what people suggest. It's up to governing bodies to decide what's best for the community, and the community together, we work together that way. That's what this is all about.
We'll decide together.
Any other comments, council members? All right, seeing none. Item number 6, consideration of ordinance number 17-14, approving amendments to the general plan to include the Focus Roy area plan. Is there a motion on this?
So moved.
For?
To approve ordinance number 17-14.
I'll second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Hilton,
Aye.
Councilmember Yeoman,
Aye.
Councilmember Dandoy,
Aye.
Councilmember Tafoya,
Nay.
Councilmember Beecraft.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number 7, consideration of resolution 1748, approving the complete street policy. Steve.
As the document you just talked about and approved, 6.2, talks about doing a complete streets policy. Myself, Ross, Oliver, the Public Works Director, Mark Miller, at the time, the city manager, Jay Bauman, sat down with Wasatch Front Regional Council, the representative for UDOT, and talked about the policy. What it really is taking the opportunities to look at every street and can we put different types of modes of transportation. It's not, as one would think, complete streets, that every street has bike lanes, that every street has parking, every street. It's just a policy for staff to now start looking at it. We occasionally look at it, but this policy really directs staff to look at those major roads and say, okay, can we put it on it, but only when we are reconstructing it, when we're ripping out the 3 inches of, or milling it up and then repaving it? Can we put in a bike lane? Can we put in, more sidewalk? Can we do things? So it really is an avenue for staff to sit down and say, okay, these roads we need to look at, can we do this? It's not every street is everything to everybody. It never will, and I don't want it to be. Like 4,000 South will not be 6,000 South. But those are two roads that we as a city that are bigger roads need to look at, and can we get Joe Paul from the southwest side up to the train station somehow on a bike lane? Whether it be, next to a canal as a bike lane on the street or what have you. So staff would recommend approval of this.
Okay. Any questions on this, council?
Well, just, and we talked this from a beautification, I think they were taking somewhat of a lead on this, but help me, the last part. About a year ago, Mayor, in our strategic planning, we talked about the possibility of putting in some parking spaces along that trail so that we can provide a safe means by which people in different parts of the city can access the trail and then use the trail and then come back to their vehicle. I would much rather prefer, to be honest with you, to drive a bike below 3,500 to get up to the trail. But to be honest with you, sometimes ain't safe, okay? And there's risk. But I do believe if the city was to simply take a couple of pieces, and the city owns some property on 6,000, it owns some property on 4,000, it owns, I think, some property on 5,600, and if the city would take the initiative as part of your plan to simply says we can get access to the trails from there, and then allow people to go in, secure their vehicles, offload their bikes and stuff, and use those trails as they were designed, I think we'd have better utilization of that particular trail system. Today, recognize weather's a factor today, but I watch that trail all the time, and to be honest with you, I'm seeing kind of a reduction of usage. Really exciting in the spring, not so much in the summer, draws down in the fall. And it really is a great trail. And when they connect it all the way from, as you stated, from Ogden all the way to Provo Canyon, that's an incredible trail by which people can really get around and set their car keys aside and really have access to this community. So I guess my comment to you would be, Complete Streets does talk to the issue about bike trail sidewalks. It gives access to different parts. I like the idea of its intent, which says that we can get people finally that lives on the west side of the railroad track to try to get them up into the North Park area, because we're going to do some great things in North Park. We got to find a mechanism by which we can provide a safe means by which people can move around the city without having the risk of getting hit by a train and personally get hit by a car. If we can fix that, if this helps us to do that, it's a great program. And I read your package, and it goes a long ways to help us do that. But we really need to put this in action, because I'm concerned right now is we're not providing, in my opinion, to meet this requirement, we're not providing a mechanism for that to happen safely, and we need to do that. So I only ask that you consider that as part of this, and then tap into, I believe, the beautification side that's taking a look at the parking elements to allow people access to the trails so they can take advantage of it, because I think we're missing there as well.
So go along with what Bob was just saying. So then does those parking areas that connect with the trail, does those need to be included in this street, or is that totally different?
So it'd be a different aspect. I mean, it's part, would be part of kind of a Parks and Rec chapter of the general plan to look at how you connect and provide options.
Okay,
this is really looking at, rather than just Public Works, the only one looking at the street when they have to repave it. Now it requires engineered planning, fire, police, Parks and Rec to now stop and look at it and say, okay, can we provide a bike lane on this road?
Okay.
Rather than just Public Works, who was only interested in asphalt and concrete, they'll say no because we don't want to. Now there's a mechanism that triggers that all the other departments now start looking at it. Can we do this?
Okay, then I guess my comment, Steve, would be is, I like the idea, I even like the intent, but it's just one chapter in a much broader discussion that I think you need to integrate with. And so, if that's the case, then please meet with the beautification committee and simply says, how about what you're going to do, help them to what they're planning to do, and we bring all this together. Because I think,
again, this is just one chapter.
Just one chapter.
To get this going.
Please.
To the full process. So.
Okay.
Council, I'm going to talk about Section 7 on the performance measures. I'm not really quite sure why we need them. I mean, I get to say, hey, yes, we were successful here, but it's kind of vague, and sometimes it sets us up for failures. You go through these. The success shall be measured on by not limiting itself to counts of rates of crashes, injuries, and fatality by mode. That's okay. How does that even come into play there? Pedestrian accommodation, sidewalk inventory, bicycle accommodation. Some of these streets that we're talking about are out of our control, so that's kind of like, all right, we set ourselves up for failure, maybe, so that's not there. I do like C. City departments, including planning, public works, engineers, and park and recreations, shall prepare a joint annual report to the city council to serve as a basis for tracking and reporting the complete street implementation. I think that's good, but I don't think A and B are technically necessary, so you'd be okay, we could get rid of those.
You're absolutely correct. In fact, I was going to turn to you, Chief. I'm going to say, once it's approved, you got to establish a baseline, because we got to know if we're getting better. And unfortunately, the way the package presents it, as Dave suggested, is we got to find out if we're reducing the number of crashes on our streets.
I don't think we
I'm
have
having a
any
hard time
ordinance
making the
that
connection.
has that. I don't
So,
think we
yeah,
have
that's why I
anything
think
that has that. Yeah.
So I think
But
we,
I have
go
no
ahead.
problem with eliminating A and B in that section.
Yeah.
Okay, correct.
Yeah, good comment.
Any comments, council? Great. Seeing none, is there a motion on this item?
I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve ordinance number 17-48, approving the complete streets policy, eliminating in section number 7, A and B.
Second.
Great, it's been motion second. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Dandoy,
Aye.
Councilmember Gilman,
Aye.
Councilmember Hilton,
Aye.
Councilmember Beecraft,
Aye.
Councilmember Tafoya.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item G, discussion of YCC Family Crisis Center donation. I'm going to turn this over to the mayor. He kind of wanted to talk about it, give a little briefing on it. They came to us last April asking us to help them assist them in a certain dollar amount. We told them we look at a budget year, and it just got overlooked. So, Mayor, go ahead.
We overlooked it in the last budget year, and since then I've got some figures I gave to City Manager Polson and asked him to review those. And Jason, would you go ahead with the letter that the YCC has sent to us requesting the funding? This is where
That was in the packet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's an issue that deals with where do we take people, wives and children that are left out in the cold, wives that are abused. It gives them a safe haven. It gives our officers an area to take someone out of an abusive situation and relocate them in a safe place until issues can be worked through with professional counseling and so forth. So I think it's a critical issue that we need to address, council. Our city has used that many times in the last year. And so I think we need to consider seriously if we're going to use services. You know, it's kind of like here in the city. If people request and use our services, we ask them to pay for the services. And this is a service that's out there to be provided to our citizens. And if we use a service, should we pay for the service? I'm a firm believer that, you know, if it's a needed service and someone out there in the city needs the assistance at times, then it behooves the citizens to pay that share. Council is open for discussion.
Well, yeah, Mayor, I absolutely agree. I think the comment was probably appropriate. The fact is, during the last budget cycle, we just didn't catch it, and it should be caught. And to me, your point's well taken, Mayor. We contribute, unfortunately, to this problem. Our city does. We have people that find themselves in very difficult situations. We have to provide protection to those citizens. This is a great program that allows that to happen. I think Roy City just has to step up and do much like every other city in this community, and has to do their fair share to make this work. And I think the nominal fee that they need for us to contribute to help make that happen is worth every dime.
Mayor, council, if I can. So the YCC is requesting $150,000 from Weber County. 16% of that would be ours, which is $16,000. Like Councilmember Dandoy said, it didn't get put in the budget. I think to be fair and to do it the right way, it really does need to go through the budget process. I think it's a good thing to do. I think it's a good thing to donate. We kind of said we would. So I would maybe just recommend that we look at this toward the end of the budget year to where we know where we're going to be at, and then give them the donation where we can. And then it really does need to be approved by you guys and go through a budget process. But I don't think we ought to just put on there the YCC. I think we ought to make a budget line item that's a charity line item that we put a set amount in. So if there's any other nonprofit companies or groups that come in and say we'd like a donation from Roy City, then we have it established. We've got a line item. We can say, look, we've got this much money allocated to charity, and we can go ahead and give you this much because this much has already been allocated. A lot of organizations do that, and I just think to do it the right way, it really should be approved by you, and it should go through the budget process. So if we want to look at it in a few months, I got no problem doing that.
So you present to us the whole line item idea and stuff?
Yeah,
for
but
approval
this
at the
budget's already done. But as we get closer to this end,
Yeah,
we
no, I
did
think that
say
needs
we'd
to
give
be
them some
adjusted.
money, and I think it's a good thing, like some of the council members said, to give them some, and I got no problem doing that.
I
It's
think you're
just
right,
going
Jason.
forward, setting it up in the
We
budget.
can always look at it though and make an amendment. We usually always look at mid-year amendments to the budget and see. I don't know that you have to wait a whole 6 more months just to see where we're at the end of the fiscal year. You know, you can look at the budget and say 16,000. Yeah, we could probably swing that. They're probably looking for that at the first of the year anyway. That's why they came to us back at the budget time.
Yep.
Council, I
That's
would
that's up to you guys. We do have some adjustments that we need to do mid-year that are a little bit more than what we anticipated when we did this a month ago. But it's open. It's up to you guys. So
No, that's okay. Any other comments, March?
I just think we ought to look at an adjustment as soon as
Okay.
possible.
I would suggest, folks, that you look at your mid-year budget, and if the money can be found, then that's when you look at making the appropriation. But you have mid-year budget coming up pretty quick here, right shortly, and I think that would be an appropriate time to look at it and see if the revenues are there, and we can participate. Then we do so.
I mean, we all agree they need to get some money because we dropped the ball. Okay, we didn't step up and say we'd look at it and do what we said we would do. So we should step up and at least do that. At least look at half of it, at least $8,000 come the mid-year, and then go ahead and go with that. So, would you guys be okay with that?
Yeah, that's
All right.
fine.
So let's go ahead and plan that $8,000 to donate to them on the 1st in January at the mid-year, and then the rest we'll just decide at budget time with all the other parties. Ma'am, I see your hand up, but it's not a public hearing, so we can't take input from you on that. So sorry about that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussions on the YCC Family Crisis Center? All right. That moving on to number 2, City Manager Report.
okay, we'll keep this short. I don't really have a whole lot. Amy did send you guys all an email about the local officials day. It's part of the legislative session. It's on January 24th. There is a link on there to register. If you would like to go to it, just please click on the link, register for it. I wouldn't mind going down, so if some of you guys want to go down, I think it's be a good thing. Basement remodel is moving along quite nicely and doing well. So that's really about all I got. Just thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Jason. Mayor and Council Report. Mayor?
Well, I want to thank the citizens of Roy for allowing me to serve as a city councilman and a mayor. City councilman for 14 years and the past 4 years as mayor. It has been an exciting experience in my life. I've learned much about how government operates and you know, coming from a background where I was in law enforcement for years, and I could see some of the workings of government and got involved in this. This has been a highlight of my life, and you know, over the 18 years, it certainly allowed me to grow as a person and a respecter of persons within the community. I love Roy City. We moved here in 1970, and I think it's the greatest city in the northern end of the state. And I'm going to tell you what, I've worked with many, many fine people as council members and as mayors, and their heart has always been in the right place to do the right thing for the citizens of Roy. So I applaud them, and I applaud those that move forward. You know, over the years, you hear many complaints also. Well, if you're going to be out there complaining, then step up and help do the job and make things, correct things that you feel needs to be corrected. There's a lot of folks out there that'll get on websites, and I like to call them the cyber warriors, because they stay in the background and they will target several of the elected officials for their irate rantings. But I've never seen one of them step up to run for the city council and to try and make things better. They feel, I guess, if they just stay there and rant and rave, people's going to listen to them. So if your heart's really in it, I would say step up and to the plate and run for elective office and make this a city that it can be. Thank you.
Great. Katie, we threw you into the deep end of the pool tonight. You have any comments on anything we had done tonight?
No, I think all of the motions that were passed were acceptable. Yeah.
Well, great. Hey, we appreciate you coming, and we
Yeah,
expect to
of
see you up here in the following year a lot, okay?
Yeah, of course.
Council members.
Dave, you know, I'd just like to take a moment here and just thank staff for the time that they've spent on my behalf and being accepting of me as a council member. It's been great to get to know all the staff. The citizens have been great. You know, I haven't been bombarded like some of the others, but it's been a great run to be here for 8 years, and I've learned something from each one of you. And it's been my pleasure to work with each of you and to get to know you and to learn from you. So thanks for each of you, and you will be missed. So thank you.
I look at these past years and I think, gosh, we've grown up a lot. And I look forward to still being involved in the city in many ways, on committees and things. I just love Roy City too much to just sit back and do nothing. So thank you.
Just so all of you who know, we have 3 members of this governing body who this is their last meeting. The mayor, Brad, and Marge. All right. Just for me, Brad and Mayor, it's been an honor to serve with you. You're both great men. You've been an asset to this community, and you've done yourself proud. You should be proud of everything that you've done. And I appreciate getting to know you and the friendships we developed in these past years. And it's just been a privilege to thank both of you.
Thank you, Dave.
Marge, words can't describe what you mean to me. We've been together. We've been doing this a long time. And you given everything you are, and that's something I appreciate and I respect, truly respect everything that you've done for the city and the community as a whole. And like I said, you mean so much to not only me, but everybody in the council and the community as a whole. And I love you for everything you've done and everything you've put in and everything you've given.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also just want to ditto everything that's been said about these 3 that are up here. I've learned tons from every one of you. I've learned how to become, you know, to be able to serve my community well, what it means to love my community and wanted to make it better. I've enjoyed working with each of you and having many heart-to-heart conversations that have been very meaningful, that has helped me not only as a councilman, but also as a person. So we're not going to say goodbye. We're going to say we're going to be seeing you guys on future committees and different things that you'll have the opportunity to serve. And call us now as a citizen and complain all you want, I guess.
Right. Let's give a hand to these folks. Thank you.
Let me just make a real quiet, fast comment. Public service, in my opinion, is never, ever easy. You're asked to basically represent, in this case, 37,000 people, and they're asking for decisions from you that's going to impact and can impact literally every one of them. And that's a pretty big assignment. You talk to anybody, they'll tell you that local government has more impact on the common person than the federal government or the President of the United States or Congress or the Senate, because we affect at the level by which you live and how you look at things and how you drive through cities. It's an incredible responsibility. The mayor will tell you there hasn't a week gone by in his entire service as mayor that he doesn't get 2 or 3 phone calls. Usually they're people disgruntled, upset about something, and he will get those calls and he's expected to provide a response to them, an answer to them. Sometimes the answers are easy. Oftentimes the answers is not what they want to hear, but it's the truth. And that's sometimes hard to deal with for people. But public service is bigger than just that. It's as it was stated, it's all about basically being involved, caring enough about your community that says, I'm going to invest in this community to make it better. And let me just indicate to you, the 3 people whose terms are coming to a close now have done all of that. I can't tell you how many times I've witnessed, it's not just the Tuesday night, it's the Thursday night and Wednesday night. They've had to travel, they've had to be in meetings. There's certain situations they were asked to be there and they were there. Committed to provide some direction, some hope, some leadership in terms of making a difference that's going to impact the lives. Not one time have I ever seen in this council, not one time have I ever seen that it was a selfish motive on their part. Every decision they make, as hard as it was, and there were some hard decisions made, they made it because they fundamentally cared enough about the city that it was bigger than them personally. And they felt they had to make a choice that represents the interests of the city. Public service is never easy, but it's incredibly valuable. I think as a city, this night will go past and many people will not hear the recording. Most people will not know. But 3 people who get dedicated a massive amount of their lives are going to go on and do other things in this city and do other things in their lives. But their contribution will always be there. Their fingerprints will be on the signs, the roads, the little things that you pass that you may not notice. They made the difference. The sad part is you probably don't know that, but I know it. And if you want me to tell you what they are, I'll tell you what they are because I know it. They made a difference in this community. We should be proud for their service. Really proud. Thank you.
Might I add something as well? I'm just as a youth, this city is so great. Like how I've noticed, and everybody on the council and in committees has made Roy great. And I think that's so awesome by dedication and hard work. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great words tonight, folks. And last item on the agenda, motion to adjourn. Is there one?
Motion to adjourn, and I wanted to do this
Is there a
for
second?
years.
Motion second. We're done.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks
Thank you.
for attending.